Hey, this is ChronoAB, and in this video we're gonna make this enemy right here, and we're gonna do that with Bolt visual scripting. There will be timestamps for everything I'm about to do, so you don't have to watch the whole video at once. And with that said, let's get on with the video. Like, share and subscribe, and if you want to, you can support the channel on Patreon. Let's get started. So I have a simple enemy object with some amount of animation. It looks something like this. Boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick. All right, you get the point. And let's set this enemy up first of all. So in the enemy as well as the ground, we also have a ground object here, as you can see. For both of them, just select both of them and add a box collider so that we can have collision. It will be box collider 2D. Okay, now we have our collision. Now in our enemy, we need a physics system so that this guy gets affected by gravity. So for that, write rigid body 2D. So we have our rigid body. Now it will be affected by gravity. And inside the rigid body, in the gravity scale, put as 3 because, you know, falling faster has not hurt anyone. And in constriction, freeze rotation on the z-axis. So okay, now we have our simple box collider and rigid body. Now in my enemy, I'm just going to right click and have 3 empty objects. I'm going to call one of them ground check, another will be called wall check, and enemy check. So rename them. Now you don't have to worry about anything, just follow along for now. So in my ground check, just put the ground check right below, just inside your ground and just a little bit in front. Once you do that, don't worry about the wall and enemy check for now. So once you do that, here in the gizmo section, let's give it a gizmo, let's say green color. So we have a green color gizmo for this, and everything is now set. So in my enemy, I'm going to create a flow macro. So write flow and click on flow macro. So we have our flow macro. I'm going to minimize this, by the way. All right, we have our flow macro and we need a new flow macro. So I'll write new, and inside my macros folder, here I'll write EnemyAI type 1. After writing that, hit save. We have a new flow macro called EnemyAI type 1. So let me just click on edit graph. You'll see start and update event. Just remove the start event. Inside the update event, first of all, we will just make the enemy move from here to here. So for that, I will just call something called rigid body dot velocity. So write rigid body 2D. And then write dot velocity dot. So you'll find rigid body 2D dot velocity as a set variable. Bring it out, and now here it takes a vector 2 value. So we need to create a vector 2. So click here and go here, create a new vector 2 of x and y. Once you do that, now if I just hit play, mostly nothing's gonna happen, but if I put 1 here, it'll start moving forward. If I put -1 here, it'll start going backwards. And if I put like 5 here, it'll start going forward a little bit faster. So that is exactly what we're going to do. And for that, instead of just hard coding it right here, meaning writing those values right here, we are going to create a variable called speed. It'll be a type of float or maybe an integer. In my case, I don't need any point value, so it'll be an integer. You can keep it as float, and I'm going to put it as 5. Just drag and drop it here. Then this and hit play. So now everything works fine. So now after this is done, what I want to do is whenever my enemy just goes to the edge of a platform, I want it to basically flip by rotating on the y-axis by 180 like this, and then start moving in the other direction. Okay, I want it to do something like this, and for that what I'm going to do is this ground check game object. I'll create a small circle in this ground check game object that will check if you're touching the ground or not. Now for that, first of all, what I need here is that I need something called physics2d dot overlap circle. So write something like that here, physics2d dot overlap, and write circle. So there are many forms of it. I need a physics2d.overlap circle with a point and a radius and a layer mask. Now, the point means where I want to spawn a circle. The radius means how big I want the circle to be, and the layer mask means like which layer will I check, which layer will this circle that I've created will check. Now by layer I mean the ground layer. I have clicked on the ground and the ground is in the ground layer. If your will be in default, basically just go here, you won't have a ground layer, go to add layer, click here, let's say I will write, I don't know, blend, something like this, blend. So we have a layer called blend, and if I go here now, just go here, I have now added a blend layer. So I want this ground basically to be in the ground layer, and we'll make a reference to that ground layer as well. So by doing that, the small circle that we have created will start checking if you are touching the ground layer or not. So now for this to work, first of all, I need a reference to my ground check. So let's go to my enemy. In the variable section, let's create a reference of that game object ground check. It'll be a type of game object, and I'll just drag and drop my ground check here. Now I'll just drag this guy here. Now I don't want the whole game object here like this because that does not work. I only want the position which is in my transform of this ground check game object. So that is what I want. So here what I need to do is, first of all, I need to take in the position of our game object. So let's go here and write capital TRANSFORM transform and write dot position. Yeah, you'll find transform dot position, which is a get value. I don't need the set, I need the get value, and now we'll put that value inside here. So now our first thing is done. Now let's make a reference to our radius as well as the layer mask. Radius will be a float. Let's just drag it here and then connect it. After that, I need a reference to the layer mask called ground layer. So it will be a layer mask. So in the search here, type layer and you'll find a layer mask. After that, there is nothing, so click on the ground layer. So this is a reference to our ground layer. So drag and drop it here, then just drag that ground layer value here. So now once we have done this, what this will do is it will create a small circle that will basically be created on our ground check. We'll have some amount of radius. For now I have not put anything. I'll put something here and it will check for the ground layer. Now here, after that, what we're going to do is we are going to take a null check. So click here and write null check. Now I could have used a simple branch system like this, right? Branch system like this and just put this value here, but as you can see, I cannot do that. The reason why is that this is not a Boolean value, meaning this is not a true or false kind of a value. This basically gives us something like this. All right, I'm gonna hit pause and hit play. I'll show you what it gives us. So whenever you're touching something, if it is in the ground layer, then it will give us, yeah, the collider of that thing, basically the ground with its collider, right? It'll give the collider of that thing and it will say it's in the ground layer. If I basically put it in somewhere else and just change here, see, it says null. First of all, only when it is in the ground layer, it will say, yeah, we're touching the ground layer. We're touching a ground. So whenever I am, meaning this guy is outside, like here, this will not say that we're touching the ground. As you can see, null. So now according to this, we will make the player flip. So that is exactly what we're gonna do. And now here I need to make a super unit and I'll have that flip function inside that super unit. Okay, so I'll just right click, write super, and a super unit. I'll just double click on it here. After that, what I need is here I need a control input. So I'll plus and just hit here, click here and press space and you're done. You don't need the output value, so we don't need that. Now whenever I call this, I want it to flip by 180 on the y-axis, meaning basically all we need to do is just go here and write transform dot rotate, capital ROTATE, Yeah, you'll see rotate with Euler angle and relative to. We don't need that. We need a Euler angle version. Click here and you can just write here. This is the x-axis of our rotation, y-axis of our rotation. In the y-axis, just write 180. So it will flip on the y-axis by 180. Then, just because we have flipped like this and we were basically moving like this, right, does not mean we will automatically start moving like this. That does not happen. So what I need to do is I just need to multiply this speed by -1 so that I will start going to the opposite side. Bring out my speed, then bring out basically an integer for now. So write integer. It'll bring out a literal integer and call it -1. So it's a -1 value, and we will multiply this value. So write multiply. We will multiply these two values and then put it inside the speed value. So just click here and write speed. So we have get speed, which is basically this. We need to set speed. So we will set that speed and just connect this. After doing this, our job is done. Now we have a simple flip function. So here what I'm going to do is this super unit will be called flip, and basically when I'm not touching the ground, right? Oh no, not null means I am touching the ground, sorry. When I'm not touching anything, meaning null, then I will flip. So I'll just connect this like this and we are done. And now let me show you a way in which you can see that circle being formed in this ground check game object. How you can do that is basically here in this script, in my enemy, here right click and write on draw gizmo select. There is on draw gizmos and there is on draw gizmo selected. Click the selected one. For the color of our gizmo, first of all, let's set that up. So write gizmos.color, gizmos.color, and here for the color, let me just make it this green. All right, that is the color of our gizmo. Now we are going to create a circle. So gizmos.drawWireSphere. Yeah, there is something called drawWireSphere which has a center and radius as a value. Then what we need to do is for the center, it means the position of our ground check. So we have a reference to our ground check. Let me just bring it here. Then take in the position like we did in here. So let me just make a duplicate of this. Transform.position, I have taken that value and then connect that here. Then for the radius, let me just drag and drop my radius and put it here. So now once we do that, I will set up my radius. So if I put 1 here, as you can see, it created a green color, basically this same color. If I just change this, yeah, as you can see, it goes darker and lighter. So the same color, green colored gizmo, right? But 1 is really big. So instead of 1, put it as 0.2. It gives a really perfect looking circle. All right, once we do this, we don't need to care about this. So let me put this down here. So now if I have done everything right, if I hit play, what should happen is it will go on and then it will go to the corner and then flip, which is awesome. So basically this enemy is actually done. This is all you need to know. But let me give you a problem. So let's just do this, and I already have some amount of ground. So what if you have a ground like this, right? It's not that you'll always have a platform like this and you'll only keep that enemy here. What if you want to keep it in a platform like this? And what's going to happen is when I reach at the end, it will not flip. Let me show you. See, it will not flip. Now we can fix that by using our, because this is some wall, right? Let's call it a wall. We can fix that by using our wall check. So let's set up our wall check. Go to wall check. In here, let's put another, so green, so let's have blue. And this guy, bring it a little bit in front like this, or a little bit here. Then we are done. Wall check is done. Now in our enemy, make a reference to that wall check. It will be a type of game object. and drag and drop your wall check. Now, the system for our wall check is that basically this guy will check for the wall, meaning the ground is also in the ground layer like this, right? This will check for the ground, but whenever we touch the ground, it will flip. So that is all that is different about this thing. So instead of basically like duplicating everything, I'll make a super unit out of this, right? And then just put in these, instead of ground check, I'll just put in the wall check. Sounds really easy. So let's make a super unit out of it. So I'll create a super unit, and then I will basically just control and select all of the things I need inside there. So here, this is the all of the things I need actually. So this, and this. This is the ground layer, so let's put that guy also, but we don't need this here. So let me just do this, and I will control X to remove it and go inside to our super unit, and then just give it a little bit of space and control V. So first of all, let's create our flow. So I'll just, in my control input, click on plus, then put a space here, and I am done. So this is my flow, and we will take basically one input for now, which is our game object, right? Game object called point. So let's have an input value called point, and it'll be a type of game object, and I'll just basically drag that value here. After that, what I need to do is here, if we are basically in the output section, I need two control output. One is when we are touching a game object, so touching, when we are touching a game object, and the other is when we are not touching the game object. Not touching. So just connect not null, which means we are touching a game object, in here, and null in here. Once we do that, our super unit is done. Let's go here, and let's say this is basically object obj object check system. So I will just put this guy here, and then join this flow and join this ground check into our point. And if we are not touching ground, right, not touching the ground, meaning ground check is not touching the ground, then we will flip. Otherwise we will just continue to the other thing. So make it duplicate. Now this will be for our wall check, so put it here. And if we are not touching the ground, if we are touching the ground, then I will just keep on going to the another unit. So here I need a reference to my wall check instead of the ground check. So go here, do this, and then make a reference to the wall check, which is fine. And the difference between this and this is that basically make a duplicate of the flip. Yeah, we will flip when we touch the wall, meaning when we touch the ground, right? So when we touch this ground, when this guy touches this ground, then it will flip. That's the only difference between this and this. Got it? So here, let's make a gizmo for our wall check as well. So all I need to do is here, first of all, let's make a duplicate of our color, connect this here, and this guy will be basically the same color as this. So I'm just gonna take that color, okay, and basically make a duplicate of this. Just go here, then connect it for the center. It will be our wall checks. Let's put it here and make a duplicate of this position. So wall check position, transform dot position, and the radius will be our radius. Let's make a duplicate of that. Let me put it here, and yeah, so now this shows our wall checks circle that we have formed. Now if I've done everything right, it will flip whenever I touch the wall. So as you can see, it flipped when it touched the wall, it flips when it did not touch the ground, and it flips when it touches the wall. Now let me make a prefab out of this. This is a prefab. Now I'll just bring this out here and bring this guy about here. So let's say you have two game objects, meaning two enemies in one platform, right? So the problem here when you have two enemies in one platform is that when they collide with each other, they just keep on sticking and they do not move. So whenever I touch the enemy, I want this enemy to flip, both of them to flip. So to have that, let me just go to my enemy, and in my flow graph, what I need to do is just make a duplicate of this, but this time I have to change something else. All right, first of all, so let me just keep it here and first of all set up our enemy check. So the enemy check should be a little bit further from our wall check. The reason why is that this guy will check for the enemy, and if it is too close, then it will check for our enemy and keep on flipping. We don't want that, so put it a little bit further and give it a gizmo. Let's give it a red colored gizmo. It will be a little bit further, more further. Basically, this should not touch collider of our player. This guy should not touch the collider of our player. So after I do that, what I need to do is, this guy is done. So in my enemy, let's have a reference to the enemy check. Enemy check, it will be a game object. So drag and drop it here, and then I will bring it out here. Now, this one, meaning the object checked, which checks our enemy, will check for our enemy layer. Meaning, right now this is in default. I have to put all of my enemies, meaning both of them, inside the enemy layer. Got it? So let's set up this guy and then I will set up this later. So for now, I will set up this, put this guy in the enemy layer, and we don't want our children, meaning these guys' children, to be in the enemy layer. We just want this object to be in the enemy layer. And inside this super unit, what I need to do is here remove this, and then here in the input put another input value called layer, and it will be a type of layer, and basically just drag and drop that value here. Got it? So for our radius is the same. For our point we'll use this value, and for the radius we'll use this value. So once I go back, what should happen is I'll find one extra thing here. Now, first of all, let me connect the flow. For the point, I'm going to have this guy here. For the layer, let's create another layer called enemy layer, which will be a type of layer mask. And we will set this value as a enemy layer. So I'm just going to drag and drop it here, then do this. Now, whenever this is touching, whenever this guy touches the enemy layer, then we will flip. So make a duplicate of flip, put it here, and then put it here. So whenever I touch the other enemy, then I flip. And by doing this, we are done. So let's have a gizmo for this as well. So now we have our enemy check as well, and make sure that this guy doesn't touch this, otherwise our player will keep on flipping like, oh my god, too much. It will keep on flipping too much and won't move at all. So after I do that, now instead of just setting this up again, what I can do is just take the enemy, go at the top in this override, click and hit apply all, meaning now this value is applied everywhere. See, both of my enemies have the same flip script. So after that, hit play, and now finally we are done. As you can see, these enemies flip whenever they do not touch the ground. Whenever they are at the edge of the ground, they flip. Whenever they touch the wall, they flip, and if they collide with each other, they still flip. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Next time I'll make a flying enemy that shoots projectile towards the player, moves towards the player, as well as shoot projectile towards the player, and also make the projectile follow the player as well. We can do that. There is a C# version of that video, but we are going to make a bolt one, so stay tuned. Have a great day. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye bye. Like, share and subscribe, by the way.